Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you, everyone? This is our first episode of Complete Tajweed Course for Beginners. And in today's video, we want to start with an introduction to Tajweed and Quran. So we have three main goals to achieve from this video. Number one is to feel the greatness of the Quran. Number two, learn the manners of Quran recitation. And number three is to practice these manners of recitation. Okay, so let's start right away. Let's hear some ayahs.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون تنزيل من رب العالمين
So, what does this ayah represent? Who can tell me? What does this ayah mean, or what can we learn from this ayah? Anyone? Okay, yes, Minna. Okay, that's very good. That we can learn from here that in order to touch the Quran, we have to be pure and clean. And we're going to learn more about this. The Quran is a noble book and the speech of the Lord of the worlds. So there are manners for dealing with it which should be observed. Sincerity and gratifying the Holy Quran is one's heart, so one should not speak people's praise through reciting it. Now, seek people's praise. So this is one very important aspect of reciting the Quran, is that you get people's praise. So people are happy with you if you recite the Quran, right? So you always have to remember and remind yourself before reading the Quran that you're doing this for Allah and not to look cool or look like a good Muslim. That's a very important point, and it's not just for the Quran, of course, it's with any good deed. Now, performing ablution or wudu, so in English, ablution, in Arabic, wudu, or washing, because none should touch the mushaf but the cleansed. Okay, and here we have to say that it is a matter of dispute between scholars whether it is halal to touch the mushaf or not if you're not on wudu. And it's definitely okay to read Quran, like recite Quran without touching the mushaf, even if you're not on wudu, even though, of course, it's better to be on wudu. But the mushaf itself, are you able to touch it if you're not on wudu? It's a matter of dispute between scholars. We like to say that you have to be on wudu to touch the mushaf, because that's better. But I have to mention that some scholars argued with that, and they said it is okay to touch the mushaf even when not on wudu. And then for this ayah, لا يمسه إلا المطهرون, they said that al-mutahharun here, the pure, are the angels. And it's talking about the lawh mahfuz, where the Quran is, the book where the Quran is in the sky. And it's not talking about the mushaf that we have on earth. So we have both opinions, and then it's always better to have wudu before you recite the Quran. Understood? So, also, one of the manners of recitation is, of course, al-Istiaaza. And al-Istiaaza is to say what? Yes, thank you so much. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. And also, what else? Al-Basmala. And we talked briefly about Istiaaza and Basmala, and we'll talk in more details later, that Istiaaza should be said before what? Yes, before starting to recite the Quran. Now, how about Basmala? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Yes, in the beginning of each surah, and that's the difference. So, Basmala, sorry? Except Surah Tawbah, thank you so much. That is amazing. And Surah Al-Fatiha is because, I mean, that sounds weird. Like we don't say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before Surah Fatiha. Technically, we don't, because Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is the first ayah of Surah Al-Fatiha. So when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you actually already started reciting the surah. So yeah, mashallah. And of course, reciting unhurriedly to understand the meaning of the verses, which is a very important point, because many people would just want to memorize the Quran, which is a great cause, but if you just the whole time reading very quickly to finish up, like, oh, I read a juz today, so just reading very quickly so you are able to say that you have finished the whole juz, but you really don't understand, well, you are being rewarded, don't worry, but it's a lot better to read the Quran to understand and feel the word of God, and not just read very quickly so that you can finish, more portions. Understood? That is wonderful. Recitation should not be interrupted except for replying to the salutation. So, if you're reciting Quran, of course, you do your best to not be interrupted and not be distracted, to respect more the word of God. Well, the only thing where you can be interrupted, you can be interrupted for any emergency, of course, but the most obvious reason we have here is replying to Assalam. When somebody says, Assalamu Alaikum, even if you are reciting the Quran, what should I do? Who can tell me? Should I stop reciting and respond to him, or should I keep reciting? Stop reciting and say wa alaikum assalam. So, well, as a matter of fact, it depends whether you're alone in the room or there's somebody else. Because what's the rule of responding to Assalamu Alaikum anyway? Is it wajib? Is it obligatory, or is it sunnah? Wajib. It's fard kifaya. Fard kifaya. What does fard kifaya mean? Fard kifaya means that is obligatory on someone. And it doesn't matter which one, but someone has to do it. If we are four here and I say Assalamu Alaikum, it's enough if Yusuf says Wa Alaikum Assalam. That is enough. The rest won't have to say it. However, if nobody responds, everybody is getting sayyat. You get the meaning of fard kifaya? So, Assalam is like this. If you're reciting Quran, there are other people, somebody says Assalamu Alaikum, and then the other people would respond to him, then I would say it's better to keep reciting. Because it's better to not interrupt the Quran. Unless it's gonna sound rude, then maybe it's better to respond. However, if you're alone in the room and somebody said Assalamu Alaikum, you have to respond, even if you're reciting Quran, right? Because responding to Assalam is wajib or obligatory, but reciting is is sunnah, yeah. And of course, putting down the mushaf in an appropriate place, that is also a very important and obvious rule. تدبر الآيات وفهم معانيها, contemplating on the verses. And we talked about this. You should not just be reading very fast. You should be more focused on the meaning of the verses and to learn from it, no matter how slow you go. Okay, now let's have some questions of true or false. Purity is not one of the manners of the Quran recitation. So Yusuf, what do you think? Purity is not one of the manners of Quran recitation. True or false? You think it's false? Let's see. Yes, that is true. Of course, it's false because purity is one of the manners of Quran recitation. Reciting unhurriedly means to pronounce the letters correctly and understand the meanings. Basma. Yes, true. That is very good. Purity is not required for touching the mushaf. Ilham. False. It is required. Yes. And again, I have to mention that some scholars would argue with that. Istiaaza and Basmala are not of the manners of reciting the Quran. False. Thank you. Among the manners of listening to the Quran is what? Listening during the recitation, talking during recitation, occupying oneself with anything during recitation. The first one, okay. One can interrupt their recitation of the Quran. Performing ablution and facing the Qibla are of the manners of recitation, of the sunnahs of the prayer, of the sunnahs of Hajj. Second one, sunnahs of prayer. Sunnahs of prayer, which means it's not obligatory when you pray to make wudu and to face the Qibla. It's not a must. It's only sunnah, right? No, it's not. It is a must of the prayer. You have to make ablution wudu and you have to face the Qibla. So is it now what? First or second or last? First one. Well, thank you so much. That was it for the first video where we learned about the manners of recitation, just a simple introduction, and we'll see you in the next one.